Hi YouTube, my name's Robyn. I'm 29 years old. I currently live in Manchester in the UK and I have just quit my job to go travelling. Yep. So I guess I'll start with telling you a little bit about myself. I am currently 29 years old, as I just mentioned. I live in the north of England. I work in PR and influencer outreach and I have done for the last 5 years. I'm vegetarian, I really like music, I love clothes and fashion, and I also really like going to new places. So I guess the big question is, why am I going travelling? It's something that I've wanted to do since I was 19 years old. That period that, you know, in the UK between college and university, a lot of people tend to go away for a gap year. I suppose this is me having my gap year 10 years later. I've recently kind of found myself in a position where I'm not really tied down in any way, and I've progressed to a point in my career where I've been doing the role that I'm in for 5 years. I feel like I'm able to take a break. I've also had a string of events happen to me recently which have not been positive, but this is something that I feel will be positive to come out of them, and it's kind of made me feel like the world is telling me to go and do this thing that I've always really wanted to do. It all started about a year and a half ago, so July 2017. I found myself at a job that was really stressful, and at the same time my granddad was diagnosed with lung cancer and we were told he wasn't going to get any better. From the day that we were told that he had lung cancer to the day that he passed away, I think was just shy of 2 weeks. And that was a really stressful time. When I came back from that and went straight back into work, I then lost my job. That happened 2 days before my granddad's funeral, which, as you can imagine, it wasn't a very good time. I went on to find another job pretty quickly and was there for 2 months, and then the same thing happened again. They just kind of decided that they didn't need someone at my level in that role. So lost a grandparent and 2 jobs within the space of about 4 months last year. We moved into 2018 and things kind of didn't really pick up. At the beginning of January 2018, found out my grandma was not very well. She was 96 years old and she was, I've described her as like a childhood hero to me. She's a huge part of my growing up and my memories that I have from childhood. She was in hospital for 5 weeks before she passed away. Then she did of course pass away. We had her funeral a couple of weeks later. So I had her funeral on one Friday. The next Friday my ex-boyfriend, my first long-term relationship, he decided to break up with me a week after my grandma's funeral. It didn't really give me a proper reason. And then the week after that I found out that Saima, who is my oldest friend, I've known her for 10 years, she has stage 4 lung cancer as well. All of these things happening at one time, it was really difficult to deal with. I have suffered with anxiety in the past and my granddad passed away last year, but those 3 things together kind of just coloured a whole new meaning to it. I used to joke with my dad that I was having a different symptom or something different was happening to me each week during this summer. It went from everything from uncontrollable crying all the time even if I felt I was fine, to feeling sick and nauseous all the time, that really pent up feeling that you can get kind of in your chest, to forgetting everything. Like I could have conversations with a friend, so ask them how their weekend is. 10 minutes later I'd be like, what are you up to this weekend? It's just I don't know, I think it was my brain's way of dealing with all of that information in one time. I think maybe any 1 or 2 of those things together someone can deal with, but you know, the 3 things this year followed on by 3 things last year, it's a lot of emotional stress, and it's in some ways amazing the effects emotional stress can have on you physically. So yeah, we've had some tough times over the last couple of months, year or so. There's also been some amazing things that have happened. We've been to weddings, birthdays, festivals, holidays, and while a lot of things have been out of my control in a really negative way, I feel like I need to give myself a break, and I need to go and do something that's really positive for myself, give myself that experience of something happy again that I've had control over, and I've kind of gone out to go and do and made a positive change. And while some of the things while I'm away probably will be out of my control, there'll be a positive out of control. I also feel like with being 29 years old and finding myself single again this year for the first time in a couple of years, just out of my first serious long-term relationship, everyone around me is getting married or buying houses and having children, and I'm a bit like Rachel when she turns 30 in Friends. I don't have any of those things, and I'm not even a little bit close to it, but you know, it's fine. And I think it is a bit of a cliche, but I think when you get to 29, when you're almost 30, it is a bit of a turning point in your life, and you really start thinking about those things. And I feel while society is almost kind of telling me I should be doing these things, there's a part of me that also knows that if I don't go traveling and do this thing that I really want to do before I get to that stage, and while I really don't have a lot of responsibility or anything tying me down at the moment, I'm probably going to regret it for the rest of my life. When I've started telling people about my plans to quit my job, leave my house that I'm renting and go away and go traveling, a lot of people have said, oh, you're really brave. And I don't really see it that way. I see this as something that I have always wanted to do and I really want to do, and I have the opportunity to do it. And all the events of the last year and a half, the one thing that I kind of realised is that life is really short, and you never know what's going to happen. So if you want to go and do something and you can, go and do it. Where am I going to? I am going first of all to Australia. I'm flying to Cairns and doing the typical East Coast road trip. So my first port of call is Cairns, and then I'll be travelling down all of the East Coast, hitting up Arley Beach, Brisbane, Byron Bay, where I'll be for Christmas and New Year. I bought a ticket to Falls Festival. Seems a bit weird to buy a festival ticket when you don't have anyone to go with, but I'm really hoping I'm going to meet people there that will want to go, or already going, or you know, want me to go with them. And then heading over to Sydney and Melbourne before flying over to New Zealand for 2 weeks. While I'm there, I bought another one-day festival ticket. I told you I really like music. I've also bought a gig ticket to go and see Idols, they're a British band. Just going around the North Island of New Zealand before flying out to Bali, where I will be for a month. I'm really excited about my trip, and I want to be able to document it, to have it to look back on for the future. Some of you watching this might know this, but I used to have a blog about 5 years ago. I also have a degree in journalism, which since I graduated 7 years ago has pretty much gone to waste. So I'm gonna start trying to write again, as well as creating videos of my trips. If you would like to follow along, you can do that on social media at Robyn_Lynch, and I will leave the link to my blog in the description box below, and you can also subscribe to the channel. I think my next video will probably be when I'm leaving. I'm currently in the middle of packing up my room. I wish you could see what was on the other side of this camera, because it's just cardboard boxes and shoes and suitcases. The moving van is coming tomorrow and I'm here filming a video. Good use of time, Robyn. So yeah, I will see you in Australia. Bye.